Okay, so let's get started. Today we are going to look at 2.1 and 2.2. So first of all, I believe every one of you have watched my video for 2.1 and 2.2. So if you missed the video, please make sure that you finish these two lecture videos. Then only you will be able to understand whatever we have in class notes. So I made my lecture videos according to our class notes. Okay, so there I have completed all the work. So when you go through my video, you will be able to finish complete, you know, all the gaps or work or whatever were left over in this lecture notes. Okay, so let me go over these definitions and the problems. Then after that, if you have any questions, please you can ask me. Okay. So the statistics means statistics nothing but we analyze the data, right? So you could analyze the data and you will get some idea and you will explain everything in terms of outcomes. We call that as. So you could display all the outcomes by making a picture or making some conclusion by writing in words. But in this section particularly, we are going to see how to display our data set in terms of pictures. Okay, so first of all here we need to look at our data. If you are given like these numbers, the set of numbers in your data, that is called the raw data, right? So the raw data means the data is given directly without any change, just given directly all the values, numbers. So if you see set of numbers, that is a raw data. Okay. So if you are given a raw data, our task is to organize those data values in a particular or in a systematic way. Okay. There are several ways you could, um, organize the data sets. But here we take the one, the way we organize here by using the frequency distribution. Okay. So there's a method to organize the data by using frequency distribution. Okay. So the frequency distribution is nothing but the organization of the raw data in table form, right? So you need to make a table. So the range here we pick this one. So how do you pick this range? Class limits. We have, some rules to make a class limits. Okay. So in this class note, so if you go through all the things I have explained in one point about making the class limit. Okay. At this point, you assume that you know how to make class limits. Then we will go further. Okay. Suppose if you know the class limits in such a way, now you are going to check one by one all the data values. Okay. In this problem, how many data values are given? Could you tell me? Yes. There are 50 values, right? There are 50 data values. Okay. So we are going to arrange in ascending order for all the values, right? So now you are going to count how many data values are in first class limit, that is from 27 to 35. Okay, so we use this tally method to count the number of data values for particular class limits. This tally column, this column is not mandatory. This is optional column. Okay, so that is up to you. So if you want, you could leave this column when you make a frequency distribution table, right? If you want to really include this, it doesn't matter. That's up to you, but it is totally optional. Okay, so by looking at the tally, you will count how many lines there, and one by one you have to tick, right? You have to put one, one tick for for the one data value, okay, or one line, whatever you want. you can call it. So one line. So 27 to 35. So you are counting one by one. How many data values between 27 to 35? Okay. So the easiest way, what we can do is we will go, one by one the data values rather than starting from here. Okay. So I will start like this. I prefer to go in this way. I will take first the data value, right? The first data value is what? 45. So look at the 45 range. 45 will be somewhere here, right? 45 to 53. So once you have one value, you just simply mark one line. So you will put just a line. Then look at the second value, 46. So once you finish that counting, you have to just cross over that. Then 46. Where's 46? Again, it is going to be in my third class limit, right? So again, one more. Like that, you have to complete all the data values in order. So if you go in this manner, you will not miss any data value. So this is the easiest way, okay? Like that, you have to cross out whatever you have counted and do all the things all the way up to the last data value, which is 62. So 62 is coming from 1, 2, 3, 4, my fourth column. So once you have counted 4, then 51 is going to be just the crossed. So like that. So each and every, total counts will be 5. Okay, so this is 5, 5, and 5. Therefore, you will have totally 15. So after making the tallies, you just count and put the number of total lines. It's very easy, no? Okay, so once you complete the frequency, make sure that when you add all the frequency values, the total or the sum of the frequency column always should match with the total data values. Okay, make sure that you are getting correctly the total data values and your sum of frequency. So in this case, we had 50 data values, therefore we are getting correctly 50. If you are not getting 50, that means you might have missed some data values. So make sure that you don't miss anything, okay? We need everything. So in this way, you could make the frequency distribution table. You may have numbers in your raw data, or you may have some labels, names. Okay, so this is we call, this, if you see the name somewhere here, so we call that as, the labels or attributes, labels, names, right? So this kind of the data set we call the categorical data. Okay, if you see the letters or names, so which is called the categorical data set. So if you see the numbers like this, you could call these as numerical or the numerical data. Okay, so this is about, okay, so make sure that you understand to complete this, the frequency distribution table. So I'm leaving this all because this all explained in detail. Please watch my videos. Okay, so now the next one is here. This is about the group frequency distribution. So we are making, like earlier, we are going to make a group, frequency distribution. The group frequency distribution, we have one extra term here. We use class boundaries. So you could find the class boundaries by using the class limits. Okay, so suppose if you know the class, the limits, you could find the class boundaries. Okay, so the thing is now the class limit should have same format of your raw data. Okay, so the class limits numbers, whatever you have the numbers, all should have the same formats of the raw data. Okay, what does mean by that? That means suppose if you have all the raw data in whole numbers, integers, that means your class limit also should have all integers. So if you see your raw data into one decimal places, decimal numbers, then your class limits also should have with the decimal numbers, the same format of your raw data, okay? But for the class boundary, you have to take always one more decimal place than the class limits values, okay? In this particular example, look at here, the class limits, all the numbers are, integers, full numbers. Therefore, your class boundary should have one decimal place. Always you have to end up with 5. Okay. So since this is whole number, you have to start with 5 and then finishing with 5. Okay. So how do you make the class boundaries? Simply, for example, if your class limits has the whole numbers, integers, okay, then to find the class boundaries, take your class limits. You will have always two numbers, right, in your class limit. Here, what you want to do is you have to subtract zero point 0.5, and this side you have to add 0 0.5. Okay, so you will have always two class limits. One is called the upper and lower, right? The biggest is upper and smallest is the lower. So you have to subtract to 0 0.5 with lower class limits, and you have to add 0.5 with your upper class limit to get the boundaries. For example, look at my first class boundary. Your class limit is 58 to 64. The smallest one is 58. So you have to subtract zero point 0.5. Why I'm subtracting zero point 0.5? Because my original data value is 0 decimal place, but here you have to take one more decimal place. Okay? In case if you have your class limits in one decimal place already, now you have to subtract with two decimal places with 0.05, and you have to add 0.05. Okay, so in that way you could make your class boundaries, right? So what I'm trying to say is, for example, suppose if you have your class limit, say you have class limit, so I'm taking one for example, one class limit. Okay, suppose if you have say 50, say 5.23 to say 50, um, 58 point, say uh, 3. If this is your class limit, for example, then how do you find the class boundary? Let's see who is telling. Could you tell me about the class boundary for this class limit? How do you find the class boundary for this limit? Remember now, in your class limit, already you have decimal place. Okay? So one of you can tell me the answer. How do you find the class boundary for this particular class limit? 0.05. Always you have to take one more decimal place than your class limit to find the class boundaries. Okay? So remember in the earlier problem here I took, your class limit already was integer, 0 decimal places. That's what I had only one decimal place here. I just subtracted 0.5 and added 0.5, zero point 0.5. But here you already have one decimal place, so you need to have here for two decimal places with ending with 5. Therefore, you have to subtract 0.05 to get the lower class boundary. To find the upper class boundary, you need to add now 0.05 with 58.3. Okay, take your calculator, simply subtract. So you should get 55 point what? This is 30. So you should get 25, right? Then if you add here, you should get 58.35. So this is your class boundaries, class boundary for this particular class limit. You see now? Your class limit is 1 decimal place, your class boundary is 2 decimal place. In that way, you have to calculate all the class boundaries. You see now, here all the class boundaries are 1 decimal place. Why? Because your class limits are 0 decimal places, all integers, right? So in that way, you could find the class boundaries, but this is optional again, tally, and you could complete your frequency group to frequency distribution. Okay, so you could complete this not and out by looking at my video. Here we go. This is the rule we are going to follow to make what the constructing a grouped frequency distribution. Okay, so follow these steps to find out to make the grouped frequency distribution table. First of all, you need to fix the number of classes before starting, to find out the frequency distribution table. Fix the class numbers. How many classes you want? You fix first. In most of the problems, they will tell you, hey, take the class number, say 7 classes, and like that, they will give you. Okay. So after that, look at your row data and find out the highest and lowest values. Then find the range. How do you find the range? You are given some row data, some numbers, right? You will find out the highest value among those row data, right? So we denote, uppercase H for highest value. So you find out that. And we use uppercase L for the lowest value. Okay, highest and lowest. Find these two guys. Once you know these two, it's always very easy to find the range. We denote range by R, capital R. So the range is given by simply the highest minus the lowest. Okay. Then you are fixing the class numbers. Suppose if you know the class numbers, okay, so you should find, the class width. The class width is nothing but range over the number of classes. This R you already have found, no? From the previous two steps. Once you know the R, the range, simply divide the range by the number of classes. So you will get one number, okay? So you need to round out that number to the nearest whole number. If you get the integer, you are fine. If you are getting, or the decimal point, you have to rounding up to the nearest integer. Okay. For example, suppose if you have here the number, say you got 4.1, then you need to round up to the nearest, integer, which is 5, right? Like that, you have to fix the class width. Okay. Right? Now, how are you going to start your class limit? The starting point. Usually, we all take the lowest value, L, no? This L. The lowest value of your data set could be chosen as a starting point of your class limit. Okay? So, find the first starting point. Right? For example, for this problem, you have plenty of data values. There are 50 data values. The same data values I believe we are talking about, right? Is this the same value we have at the beginning? No, this is different. Okay, this is very good example for you guys to work, for the grouped frequency distribution. Look at here. They are telling you, hey, could you make 7 classes? You know number of classes, right? Once you know the number of classes, follow these steps to make the frequency distribution table. Okay, so roughly I'm explaining here. What is your first task? Your first task is to find the highest and the lowest value among this data set. Would you tell me what is the highest data value among this set and lowest? Could you tell me, please? What is the highest value here you are given?
134.
134, where is that? That is right over here, right?
Yes.
Yes, good. So 134 is the highest value. What is the lowest value?
100.
100, where is that? Yeah. So like that, first find the highest and the lowest. Once you know these two, now you could find the range. Range is simply highest minus lowest. Highest is 134, lowest is 100, subtract, you get 34. Right? So once you know range, now it is very easy to find out the class width. Class width is simply given by R over number of classes. Okay? You know now the range, which is 34, over the number of classes. How many classes we need? They said us to take 7 classes, right? Therefore, the number of classes is now 7. Simply put 7 here. Now take your calculator and divide. 34 divided by 7. You will not get integer, you will get decimal, right? So 34, 34 divided by 7. So I got 4.9, no? 4.9. But you need to round up this guy to the nearest integer, rounding up. Okay, rounding up to the nearest integer, which is 5, no? Therefore, my class width is going to be 5. Okay, so it is 5. So now, what you want to do? You know the class width now, right? Now you are going to make the frequency table. Okay, so let me draw the table here. Okay, so I'm right. So it's very hard for me to draw lines. Okay, so first one you could take first one is class limits. Then I need to know the class boundaries. Okay, boundaries. My handwriting is not good, no? That's very hard for me to write down. Okay, so class boundaries. The next one, putting tally is optional. If you want, you could put. Then we need the frequency. Frequency means what? The counting, how many tallies, numbers. How many numbers are there in another way? Okay, so let's make class limits. I remember, told you earlier, what we start with always the lowest number. The lowest number, this problem is 100 now we have. Therefore, I'm starting my class limit with 100, okay? So I'm starting with 100. This is my lower class limit for the first class. How do you find the upper limits? Keep that. Let us find all the lower class limits first. Okay, I'm going to fill all the lower class limits. How do you fill? Simply adding your class width with the smallest number. We already know the class width, which is 5, right? So simply add 5 with this 100 to get the second lower class limit. 100 plus 5, which is 105. Simply add 5 with this number. 5 is my rounded up class width, right? So this is going to be my second lowest class limit. To get the third lowest class limit, again add 5 with this number, so it will get 110, and keep on doing. How many classes I am looking for? I am looking for 7 classes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need 2 more, right? 125 and 130. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We are good. Now, the catch is, how are we going to fill out all the upper class limits? It's very simple. Just subtract 1 from your second, the lower class limit. Subtract only 1 from here. Subtract 1 from 105 to get, the previous upper class limit. 105 subtract 1, that will be 104. To get the second upper, just subtract the third lowest 1, which is 110 subtract 1, which is 109. But if you are very smart, this is nothing but simply adding 5 again class with 104 will give you 109, right? Then again, keep on adding 5 here or subtract 1 from here. That is up to you. So I'm simply adding 5 with this number to get all the upper class limits. So 114, 119, 124, 129, and the next one is 134. Okay, so this is the way to fill out the class limit. Now very easy. Once you have the class limits, you know how to find the class boundaries. Remember, all the class limits are now 0 decimal place. Therefore, class boundary should have 1 decimal place ending with 5. So you have to subtract 0.5 with the lower class limit and adding 0.5 with your upper class limit, and keep on doing. It's very easy after that. So I am adding 0.5 with this number. Let me use the different colors. So I am adding 0.5 with this number, and I am subtracting 0.5 with this number. Then again adding with 0.5 and subtract 0.5, and so on. You will complete all the class boundaries. So in that manner, if you complete, let me copy down the answer. Please make sure that you are getting this all. 99.5 to 104.5 and 104.5 to 109.5 and 109.5 to 114.5. 114.5 to 119.5, 119.5 to 124.5, 124.5 to 129.5. So 129.5 to 134.5. Okay, so this is the way to find the class boundaries. Done. You see now, couple of points you have to observe here. You see, for the class limits, for post class limits and the second class limits, there's a gap between these two classes. Do you see that? Your first class limit finishing with 104, but your second class limit starting with 105. So there's a small gap between 104 and 105, right? Whereas if you check your class boundaries, first class boundary is ending up with 104.5, but starting also with the same number. That means there's a continuation, in your class boundaries, but there is no continuation in your class limits. Okay, but we prefer to have a continuation to draw pictures and all. Therefore, I am going to use the class boundaries values because of the continuation to draw what? To draw the histograms or whatever we have. Okay, So if you are asked to draw a histogram, it's you know, important, right? To ask to draw, to find out first the class boundaries. Okay, so find out the class boundaries. Okay, so now check one by one. Start with 112 and count all the numbers, tallies. 112 falling into which class? Now you could check either 112 is falling into, you could check in class limits or class boundaries, doesn't matter. 112 is going to falling into this region, right? Therefore you have 1. Like that, count all the tallies and find out all the frequencies, the numbers, how many numbers are there in each class boundary. Okay. So in that way, you could complete all the frequencies. So let me copy down my answer. Please make sure that you are getting this answer. I'm getting two numbers, two data values between 100 to 104. Is that true? So I get 8 data values from 105 to 109 and so on. Next 18, 13, 7, 1 and 1. That's it. Remember I told you earlier, you just check the total. What is the total values we are getting along the frequency column? 8 plus 2 is 10, 10 plus 18, 28, 28 plus 13, 41, 41 plus 7, 48, 49, 50. Yes, I'm getting 50 correctly because my entire data values are 50 data values. So makes sense. Okay, so like that, you need to complete your frequency, group to frequency distribution. This is optional. I believe now everyone should have understood this now. Okay, are you following me? Say yes or no.
Yes, sir.
Yes, very good. So it is very easy, no? These first two sections, just drawing pictures from your data. Section 2 is about drawing pictures. So histograms, frequency polygons, and ogives. So I have explained these all in my video, and why don't you go through those things? Okay. So simply I'm just going over. Okay, so let's look at how to draw first the histogram. Histogram is nothing but, that is like a bar chart, bar graph. Okay, so histogram is a bar graph, but there's no space between two blocks. Okay, there is no gap between. So this is I'm writing about the histogram. Okay, don't confuse. This is about the histogram. There is no gap between two blocks, but seems like bar graph. So for bar graph, you may or may not have spaces between two blocks. Okay, so your bar graph may have like these two blocks, right? With the space, you see the space between two blocks. So your bar graph may have like this, but when you draw histogram, you should not have any space there. Okay, it should be like continuing. That's what I need, the class boundaries to make continuation with one point to another. So your histogram should have like this, okay, with no gap. There's no gap between two blocks. You have to join all the blocks. Okay, make sure that you are not making any mistake when you draw histogram. If I see any gaps between two blocks, that means it is not correct. So you have to join all the blocks. So basically, you have to look at your class boundaries and plot the class boundaries here. Okay, in your x-axis, you have to plot all the class boundaries. Your y-axis always going to be little f. Little f means the frequency. Okay, so in that way, you could draw the histogram. The same example here I have copied down, and I explained here how to draw a histogram by using group to frequency distribution table, right? This is the same table we just now we made it, right? But remember, if you want to draw histogram, you have to focus on only class boundaries. I don't want class limits. That's what I did not take that column. I need only 2 columns to draw histogram, okay? One is the class boundaries, another one is the corresponding frequency values for each class boundary, okay? So take all the class boundaries in x-axis and all the frequency values in y-axis. So I have explained here all the directions and methods. So this is my x-axis, right? This is my x-axis. So my first class boundary starts with 99.5. Therefore, 0 will be here, 99 point will be somewhere here. After that, I am plotting all the class boundaries with the same space. All the class boundaries now will have the distance of 5, right? The distance between 2 class boundaries values is always 5 now. You see the distance everywhere, 5, right? Therefore, you will have the gaps, regular gaps, equal gaps between 2 numbers, okay? Once you know your class boundaries and the frequency values, remember my frequency values are in my y-axis, okay? So this is my frequency value. So remember maximum is 18, right? The frequency. But if you want, you could take 20 as well, doesn't matter. But you have to cover all the frequency values. That's it. Then draw the bar graph without gaps. Then you will get the histogram. Okay. The good thing is you have calculator to draw, the histogram. But in some cases, your calculator and your original, histogram may be a little bit different because our calculator will choose automatically the class, the bars, the number of bars or classes. Remember, before going to start this problem, they already told us to take 7 classes to draw, the group frequency table, right? Suppose if you do not know that, then you could fix whatever you like it. But calculator will choose some particular class, the number of classes, okay? So now remember, I'm going to use calculator to draw the histogram. Let's see how many classes calculator automatically taking. Okay. So now this is totally technology. Now we are going to find out, drawing histogram by using the calculator. I believe every one of you. Okay, tell me now, did anyone downloaded that virtual calculator, the link I have sent last time?
It didn't work for me.
Oh, it did not work? What about others? Are you using laptop? Who is talking? Is that Sabrina
Stephanie,
or Stephanie? Okay, did you try with your laptop or desktop?
my laptop.
Okay, so why it is not supporting? Were you able to find any other link?
No, I haven't.
Okay, you could just simply, Google it and you just type free download software TI-83 Plus, and you need to little bit play around to get the correct link, no? But for me it worked, but I don't know why. Maybe your system may be different, right? Is that Windows or Linux? What is you have?
Google Chrome is what I was using.
Oh, I see. Maybe of that reason, I don't know. Okay, so I have now TI-83 Plus. Okay, I'm going to use this calculator to draw histogram. Okay, but anyway, I believe I have included all the steps, no, by about the technologies using. You see here, this is about TI-84 Plus step by step constructing histogram. So I have given all the directions to, follow up to draw the histogram. Okay, now we are going to draw a picture in this little window. Okay, so before going to start, you need to set the window first. The default window value is -10 to 10 for both x and y axis. But that depends on the problems, right? So if you want more space, you need to change your dimension, for your calculator. Okay. Okay. So now remember, we need to draw histogram like this, like this. Your x values are always your data values, and your y values is frequency, right? So if you look at, so the highest frequency values is 18, no? That means your y value highest is 18. But this is my x values, right? The smallest value is 99.5 and the highest value of your x is 134.5. So you could take as 135. Okay. So first I'm going to set the window. So go to window here, and the minimum you could put 100 because your data value smallest value is 100. But if you want, you could make there 99.5 itself. Doesn't matter. No change. Okay. So it will give you the same. But the maximum data value is 134, right? But I'm taking 135. If you want, you could take 134.5. It doesn't matter. And the scale means your x value is now increased by 5. I'm leaving as it is 5. And your y minimum is, you could take y minimum means what? Y is my frequency values. I'm not getting any negative values. If you want, you could put there 0 as well. Doesn't matter. But I'm keeping as a negative 5. Y maximum I am keeping as 20 because I have maximum is 18. Remember, these all frequency values for y value, and my class boundaries are from x. Okay, that is there. So my y scale also increasing by 5. If you want, make it 10 there, no problem. So like that, first you have to set the window according to your data values. Okay. After that, follow the steps. You need to feed all the data values into your calculator, right? So remember, I had 50 data values. You need to enter all the data values into your calculator. So this is the way to store all the data values into your calculator. Okay. So to store the data values, into your calculator, simply follow this step. Okay. Go to stat, edit, then you need to enter all the data values into L1 column. You could choose any columns, but we usually choose all data values into L1. Okay. I'm going to enter all the 50 data values into L1 column. I'm going to follow these steps. Go to stat is here. You see edit, number 1, enter, just enter. Oh, you see now L1, L2, L3 and so on. You have a lot of columns. You could enter whatever you like, but we prefer to enter into first column, okay, L1 column. Simply just add one by one data values. I have already fed all the data values. Start with 112, type 112 and hit enter button. Then next one 100, enter, and keep on doing. I already have entered all the data values. If you count, you will have here 50 data values. Okay, all the data up to all the way 114. You see now the last data value is 114. So I just fed up all the data values into your calculator. That is the first step, feeding all the data values. Okay. So now let me go back to that direction page. Where's that? Drawing histograms. Yeah. So follow this step. To plot the histogram from your raw data, enter the data into L1 column. We have done already. Make sure your window values are appropriate for the histogram. Yes, we have already set the window. Now you are going to choose the correct picture. Okay. Now go to your calculator. Get out from these windows, these columns. How do you get out from these? Simply second and quit. I just went out. Second bar, a second button, we took mode, quit. Now I'm out of that. So you need to press again second button with stat plot. Stat plot is here, yellow color, right? So press this button. So you will get a bunch of plots. I'm going to draw only one plot, which is histogram. So I'm choosing only plot 1 to be on. Remaining all I'm keeping as off mode, okay, because I need only one graph. So you can do that, whatever you like. So if you want, you could, on plot 2 and switch off plot 1. That's up to you. But we prefer to do from the beginning, right? From the starting. So I'm keeping plot 1 is on mode. When it is on, then go there and now choose the correct picture. Remember, I'm drawing histogram. You see a bunch of different pictures. I need the third one, histogram. Choose the third one and hit enter. Okay. After that, you need to choose the correct list. List means this is nothing but the raw data. Remember, I have entered all the raw data values into L1 column, right? If you enter into L2 column, you have to change here, make it L2. Whatever you have entered of all the data values column, you have to match with this, okay? So I have already entered into L1 column, so I'm keeping as L1. Frequency column, keep it as 1 because I had only one frequency column. So keep this as 1. That's it. That's it. Now simply graph it. Click the graph button. You see now, I got nice histogram, right? But you don't see any values. If you want to check the values for corresponding bars, simply hit the trace button here. So it will give you the values of for each box, whatever you like. Remember here N stand for the frequency, F, little f, right? What does mean by this? This means if you look at your, before that, how many bars I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bars. Remember, I did not give any information about bars for this particular data set. Calculator automatically chosen, right? 7 be a class, number of classes, right? So luckily we got correct number of classes, but it may differ from your picture, actual picture, right? It's up to you. So if you are not asked, right, about the number of classes, then you could fix whatever you like. So you could use the calculator number. Calculator choose, it chose 7 classes, 7 bars, right? So it seems like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the first bar has 2 frequency and keep on moving. My second bar has 8 frequency. Yes, correct. Check your frequency distribution table. You got frequency value. Second one has 8, no? Third one, 18. Next one, 13. Next one, 7, 1, and 1. So all frequency values in your table are matching with this picture. So perfect. Everything is coming correctly. So this is the way to draw histogram by using calculator. Okay, so do you have any questions? That's about histogram. Now we have a couple of things, right? What is next one? Next one, frequency polygon. Drawing frequency polygon is super easy. To draw frequency polygon, you should know the midpoints. How do you get the midpoints? Midpoints is nothing but the midpoint of your class boundaries. Okay? Suppose if you take your first class boundary, simply find the mid value of these two values. Right? So that is my second column here. So you need to create one more column, which is midpoints column, if you want to draw a frequency polygon. Okay? Simply add these two values and divide by 2 to get the middle value of these two. Okay? So how did I find the first midpoint? Simply add 99 0.5 and 104.5, then divide by 2. Make sure that you are putting parentheses if you want to use the calculator. If you find this value, this should be 102. So that is my first midpoint. You want to find the second one, add these two values, 104 and 104.5 and 109.5. Add these two values and divide by 2. You will get the second midpoint, and so on. Okay? So once you have the midpoints, now to draw the frequency polygon, you need to have these two columns, right? So my x-axis is nothing but the midpoints. My y-axis is nothing but the frequency. Okay? So plot all the midpoints here. So my midpoints are starting from 102. 0 is here, 102 maybe somewhere here. The next one is 107, and so on. And label all the one. Okay, so I think I explained it. Yes. So 0 is here. Okay, 102 is here. So first start with 102. So my midpoint 102 will give you frequency 2. So 102 and 2. 102 and 2. 2 will be somewhere here, no? This is 3. 2 will be just below. This is 2. So actually this is my first point of your table, right? This is my second point. This is third point, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. But if you want to complete your, the frequency polygon lines always should touch your x-axis in both directions, starting point and end points as well. So simply remember, the distance of each midpoints are 5 units, right? 102 to 107, 5 units. Each gaps are 5 units. So make 5 units further to this left side and make 5 units further to the right side of your values. Okay? So your last midpoints of the picture is 132, but I need to know one more point to finish your, the frequency polygon up. So I need to go one more point on the x-axis, which is 137, I believe. This is 137 because 5 units. This side, this should be what? 5 subtract 102 from 5, which is 97. So always you have to start with the x-axis and finish with the x-axis after plotting all the points from your table. So then take your ruler, join all the points. So you will get the polygon, which is called the frequency polygon. Or if you want, you could check the frequency polygon as well by using the calculator, right? Because I already have entered the data values, no? Only thing is you need to change the picture. So let me check the frequency polygon from your calculator. Now I'm going to change my picture, right? I need now polygons. So I am keeping that as. Oh, you see now you need to enter two values, L1 and L2. So you need to change now everything, right? Because you need to know the midpoints. So you need to find out the midpoints and the frequencies. Okay, so this is very good exercise for you. Why don't you check this? So this is what I need from you. You need to feed these data values, okay? I need to know only these two values to make a frequency polygon, okay? So to draw this picture by using the calculator, these are the steps now you need to follow. Clear all the data values from your calculator, okay? So you need to clear all the data values. So let me go there, that edit. You need to clear L1. Okay, nothing is there, no? You need to start like a fresh problem, new problem. Okay, so this is the catch. Enter all the midpoints values all the midpoints values into L1 column, all the frequencies into your L2 column. Your midpoints are here. Enter these all values. Okay. Then enter these values into L2 column. Okay. Then you should get nice answer. So remember my midpoint starting with 102. Start with 102 and next to 107. If you have calculator, please try with me. You could go with me. Correct. Huh? Okay, good. So now move to the L2 column. You have to type all the frequencies, right? 2, yeah, coming. 2, 8, 18, 13, 7, 1, 1. Okay, that's it. So now try to graph this. You see now you are getting the frequency polygon. So this ogive, to draw ogive is nothing but the curve, the curve shape is like the shape is like going like this. Okay, like S, no? So going all the way and going all the way like that. This kind of curve is called the ogive. So this is the way. If you want to draw ogive, you need to know now again the class boundaries and the cumulative frequency. You see the new term now, cumulative frequency. Cumulation means you are adding up, keep on adding, right? This cumulative frequency can be calculated by using the frequency values. Okay, so this table is nothing but coming from your class boundaries grouped frequency table. Okay, so this also they are in detail. So I am leaving this one for you guys to watch. Please watch the video. Okay, and understand how to draw ogive. I just want you to watch first, and if you have any difficulty, then in this meeting you could ask every week. So you need to go through those first. You see now? So after drawing picture, you should be able to get like that. So these all your class boundaries, and this is cumulative frequency. Cumulative frequency is simply just keep on adding with your frequency. Start with 0. Okay. So always you have to start with less than 99.5. Do you see any data value less than 99.5? You will not get. That is why it is 0. Because your data values are starting from 104.5, right? Look at this range, 99.5 to 104.5. So your data range, your data value is basically starting from 99.5. So anything less than 99.5 will be nothing, 0. That's why you are starting with 0. So if you want to draw cumulative frequency, curve or ogive, you need to start with always less than points. Okay, that's why you have this term less than everywhere. So for less than 99.5, I find nothing, but less than 104.5. If you look at your data set here, how many data values you are getting less than 104.5? That means in this the range you are getting only 2, right? Therefore it is 2. Okay, but how are you going to find the less than 109.5? If you look at the data values which are less than 109.5, look at 109.5 is here, right? So the less than data values is, of course, this one plus the previous one. Previous one also will be automatically less than 109.5, right? Therefore, you need to add these two to get all the data values which are less than 109.5. That is why you have 2 plus 8, which is 10 here. What I'm trying to say is start with 0 and simply adding this guy with 2 with your first frequency 2, you will get the second one. 0 plus 2 is 2. To get the third one, simply add the second frequency value 8. To get the third third cumulative frequency. So 2 plus 8 is 10. To get the next one, keep on adding what? 18 with 10. So you will get 28. Okay, that is 28. To get the next one here, 28 with 13. Then keep on adding 41. 41 plus 7 will be next 48. Plus 1 will be 49. Plus 1 will be 50. So if you do correctly, this will match up with your total data values, which is 50 coming correctly. So like that, you have to complete all the cumulative frequency. Why we call cumulative? Because you are keeping on adding, right, the previous data values, previous frequency. That's what which is called the cumulative. You are just keep on, accumulate everything. Okay, so that is the way to make the cumulative frequency. Anyway, I have explained in detail there. So once you have the cumulative frequency and your the less than class boundary values, so this is going to be your x and this is our y. Simply plot the points, then take your ruler and join. So we are starting, less than 99.5, nothing is there. So this is 0. Start with 0 always. This is less than 99.5. This is less than 104.5. How many data values are there less than 104.5? Simply 2. So this will be 2. Okay. So next to 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. That is 0 to 10. Okay. So make sure that you are getting, this is 10. And the next 25, is that 25? 28, sorry. This is 28. And the next one is 41. This would be very close to 41. And 124.5 is what? 124.5 is 48. That is this. And 129.5 should be 49. And the last one is, of course, the 50. Okay. So this is very easy to draw, Ojai. Okay. Any questions so far?
No, sir.
Okay. So now, this is the catch. After drawing the histogram, we should be able to, describe about our data set. So we call, those kind of, the explaining expression, which is called the skewness. The skewness of data set. Okay. So if you look at your histogram, this could be identified by using our histogram. Once you draw histogram will tell you about the skewness of the data set. Okay. Suppose if you have like this histogram, for example, look at this histogram, the first one. It's very symmetric, not very regular shape. So if you could draw a curve on this all, all the blocks like that, I get very nice curve, right? Very, very regular, uniform curve. This curve is symmetric about the midline, no? Sorry, like that, right? So you could think of like this curve is very, very symmetric about the middle line. Okay, so it's going like this. So this kind of curve is like a bell shape, so we call bell-shaped curve. Now the next one, all the blocks almost the same height, right? Almost, not exactly, almost. So if you have all the heights of your blocks in your histograms are, approximately, I could say, same, then we call that kind of distribution, your raw data distribution is we call uniform distribution. Okay. After drawing your histogram, if you see kind of, all the blocks going all the way, right? So this is like a letter J, no? Like letter J. That's what we call this as J shape. So this is a reverse J shape, right? If you could draw a curve like this, what's happening here? Here, this curve is not symmetric, but one side has a long tail, like heavy tail we call, long tail. So this tail is on right side. Therefore, we call this distribution of data set as a right skewed data set distribution. This is in another way, no? If we could draw a picture on this, so this distribution has going long tail in the left side, therefore which is called the left skewed. Okay, so this one we have two peaks, right? There are two peaks. If you have two peaks, we call that as a bimodal. Bi stand for two. This distribution is like we have middle like a U, no? There's a U shape in the middle. That is why we call this as a U-shaped curve. This is some of the examples of the distributions of your raw data. Okay, so suppose if you are asked to describe the skewness of your raw data set, first of all you need to draw a histogram. Once you have histogram picture, by looking at the picture you could easily identify what kind of distribution you have for the raw data. Most of the case we will have either right skewed or left skewed, most of the cases. Okay, most of the cases. Once you increase your data sets, in general, most of the case will fit into these two. Okay, these two, right or left. So we will look at those in detail in next chapter. Okay, that's all about 2.2. Okay, so I believe at this point you guys should be able to describe the sets and constructing frequency distribution table, then group frequency distribution table, finding class limits, class boundaries, and using calculator you should know how to feeding the data values, and then we looked at the drawing histogram, right? So to draw the histogram we should have class boundaries. Then to draw the frequency polygon we should have midpoints and the frequency values. Then at last we saw how to draw a jive. So we should have the cumulative frequencies, adding all the frequencies together to get the next cumulative frequency value. And I just suggest you to go through my videos, and still if you have any questions you could just send an email, then I will respond. Okay, so that's it for 2.1 and 2.2. So you can work on all the homework assignments online for these couple of sections. Make use of this weekend to do these 2.1 and 2.2, and of course you can start watching videos on 2.3. okay, maybe you can start tomorrow itself, Wednesday 2.3. Thursday also you can watch it 2.3 and try to understand about those things in my lecture notes. Then again Monday you have to start 2.4. So I will go through from 2.3 and 2.4 on next two meeting. Okay, that makes sense.